in the Holy Land. You may have a little clue from the picture. And there's some fascinating stuff that has happened there that really can dramatically change our lives. All of us probably have things that we wish we could take back, that we wish we could have never done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Levi. And this actually can take care of those as well. It can bring healing in many different ways. And so we're going to find out what that is on Monday night. You won't want to miss Monday night. It's an incredibly wonderful, powerful place and message of hope. And then Tuesday night, coming up, the deadly lie that killed the truth. Fascinating. Many people hear this topic and they say, wow, I had no idea. And there's some fascinating archaeological finds that we're going to look at that really give insight into what was going on there at the time of the biblical writings. And then Friday, Love on Fire, just outside Jerusalem. This is a big topic. It's a hot topic. And we're going to find out some exciting things about it. This Valley of Hinnom, and that Jesus even used as a metaphor for some pretty significant activity in the end. This morning, if you were here this morning, we talked about how God is going to rid the universe of injustice. And this one right here is going to be kind of like a build off of that, kind of building from what we learned this morning and take it to the next level. And so we're looking forward to that. We promised that the topics would build on one another, so you don't want to miss a single night. And then next Saturday morning at 11, Israel's destiny and my future. Many people want to know, what is the role of the country of Israel in the end times, and what is all this talk about the rapture? What is the rapture? How does it happen? And all this kind of, when does it happen? All this stuff. We're going to find out next Saturday morning. You won't want to miss it. And then next Saturday night, a kingdom of priests in the 21st century. Many people don't realize that God has a kingdom of priests in the 21st century, just like the community at Qumran saw themselves having a very special significance as a kingdom of priests there in the first century, or leading up to the first century, and we're going to find out all about that next Saturday night. There's, of course, a couple more topics, but this is running us close to the full sweep. So we're halfway through tonight, and this has been an exciting journey. Thank you so much for taking it with me, and I hope that you've been enriched so far. I hope that you are experiencing hope from God's Word and excitement from a tour of the Holy Land, and that this has been a perspective-broadening, biblical understanding deepening, and hope-building experience for you. And so let's go ahead and bow our heads for one more added word of prayer. Jesus, thank you so much. Thank you for who you are. You are attractive. And Lord, you love us. We're seeing that. We've seen that night after night after night, how you want the very best for us. You want better for us than we want for us. And so, Lord, I invite you to speak tonight on a topic so personal as health. Lord, you have things to say because you care about us. You have things to say because you love us. And so, Lord, we know that while we are weak, you are strong. And so, Lord, let us experience your dreams for our lives tonight. Give us clarity, give us conviction, and give us hope. In Jesus' name, amen. See, ancient secrets for thriving health. We promised we were going to be checking out the ancient city of Caesarea Marítima. Caesarea Marítima is one of the greatest engineering feats of the first century. In fact, engineers today still marvel at what they were able to accomplish in Caesarea Marítima 2,000 years ago. So what happened? Herod the Great comes on the scene, and he does something that no one else had done before. He ends up building a massive harbor. Because the scenario was that Caesarea Marítima was naturally unfit to have a harbor. It has rough waves that would crash boats up against the shore. It wasn't a great place for that at all. But Herod says, I want to come in and build a harbor, and that's exactly what he does. So he uses some very innovative methods to create underwater concrete. And so they use some special formulas. They import a lot of lime and this material called pozzolana, which is a type of volcanic ash. They import it from Italy, and with this special concoction of concrete and ash and lime, and they managed to put this in wooden boxes, and then they'd float the wooden boxes out there and then sink them to the bottom of the harbor. Divers would go down and put in mortar between the cracks and everything, and so they were able to basically build some breakwaters far out into the harbor. So you've got two jetties that kind of have some breakwaters there. So basically, it's like a marina, first century style, in the harbor, so boats could come right in and kind of have their own little parking spot right there without being affected by any waves whatsoever. This was absolutely brilliant by first century standards, and to be honest, I haven't heard of too many man-made built harbors recently, even today. Have you? I mean, this is quite an accomplishment, and Herod the Great manages to pull this off in a very short amount of time, considering the amount of work that was done. So he was very ambitious. Can anybody guess what Herod's primary motivation for this project was? Anybody?
What made it work?
Money. I would say money is one of them. Let's number one, I would say his primary motivation was bragging rights, number one. I mean, this is something that nobody has done before. He's innovating, he's building, and after all, I mean, how many people do you know that have the great tacked onto their name, right? Hey, I've been attending this really exciting Secrets of Hope seminar by Dustin the Great. What? But that's who Herod was, right? Herod the Great. And so we're going to find other monuments that Herod himself built, like Masada. We're going to find out about in next Sabbath morning, and then later on we're also going to find out about Machaerus, which was another massive, incredible fortress that Herod built. So this guy really left a mark on the Holy Land as far as development and architecture and culture and trade. This guy really brought economic thriving into the area. He was ambitious. He was able to accomplish a lot. He was a very mean guy, incredibly mean guy, very paranoid, and we're going to find out more about all of that another time. But yeah, number one, he wants bragging rights, Herod the Great, and just like you said, number two, probably neck and neck, would be money, right? Money! Because whoever owns the harbor gets the taxes from all the trade, right? Whoever owns the harbor gets the taxes from the trade. So Herod was tired of those lousy Egyptians down south, crashing in a nice harbor in Alexandria. They're cashing in on this nice harbor in Alexandria, and Herod says, man, these Egyptians are getting rich. All this money could be coming into my pocket. All I need is a nice harbor for ships to come trade at. And so that's exactly what he does. He builds it, and he creates this new harbor, and so he actually cuts off the trade route from Egypt, because now that he, being up north, is so accessible, many boats kind of stop going all the way down to Alexandria and come right over to Caesarea Marítima. So this guy was smart, he was competitive, and he cuts out the competition, and the whole area through Caesarea Marítima begins to thrive economically through the trades as well. He gets money for his other building projects through this, and he continues to build up his prestige in the entire area. So trade, money, and influence begin flowing freely through Caesarea Marítima. So what was life like in Caesarea Marítima? Well, we see that we've got this nice harbor here, and let's look at a little bit more of what life was like. Now, of course, Herod made this his capital in Israel. This was his political capital. Of course, Jerusalem was like the religious capital. Caesarea Marítima is not too far away. Herod really liked to hang out here. He would only come to Jerusalem for special occasions when he felt like he needed to show up. And so he builds a nice palace. This is actually the place of Herod's palace right here. And it's kind of out on a jetty that's a really beautiful location, a panoramic view of the Mediterranean Sea. You can see the coastline, and so he builds this beautiful, beautiful place that would have had some extensive rooms and basically everything that he would have needed for his own comfort. Speaking of panoramic views, so this is from what would have been the edge of his palace. This is his personal freshwater swimming pool right over there. We'll see that in just a minute. And of course, you can look out over the Mediterranean Sea. There's the harbor right over here with the jetties and the breakwaters, where all the ships would have been. You can look out right behind his house. Is the hippodrome that we're going to see in a second for athletics and entertainment. And then right here is the palace itself, and the various columns and nice architecture that he used in that very building. So Herod has made sure that he has a palace that he can have rest in, that he can enjoy his life and live in luxury. We're talking about ancient secrets of thriving health tonight, and we're going to even see some hints of them here in our quick little tour of Caesarea Marítima before we dive in deep into this topic. And so Herod's got a place where he can experience rest. Of course, we want to be experiencing rest in our lives, don't we? We want to get adequate sleep. And then also, we already learned about God's gift of the Sabbath, how every Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, God has a day of rest, that we get to take it off so we don't work ourselves to death like many of us may have a tendency to do. And so then Herod also has his very own freshwater swimming pool. He could be right out there in the Mediterranean Sea, saltwater sea, but he's got a freshwater source into the pool, and so he can just kick back, relax, he can swim laps, he can exercise, do whatever he would like. And right behind his palace is the hippodrome. This is where athletics would happen, chariot races, those kinds of things. It was entertainment. It was basically like sports. Like when you turn on the television and watch a football game, this is the Roman first century equivalent to watching sports. And then of course there's also other entertainment. There's a big theater that's also been found. This is one of the oldest theaters still in operation today. And as you can see, a very sizable theater for a large city, and they still do various programs and concerts and things like that. I thought about hosting this seminar in that theater, but I thought it might be too far of a commute. So I guess we're just posting it here and showing a picture. So speaking of exercise, so what is one of the greater enemies? So entertainment, what is the relationship between entertainment and exercise? Oftentimes entertainment happens to be one of the greatest enemies of exercise, doesn't it? And sometimes even an enemy to not only our physical health, but our mental health, emotional health, and even spiritual health. And so we too are into an entertainment culture, just like they were in Caesarea Marítima. And just want to throw up a couple statistics here. The average adult in the United States watches TV for 5 hours a day. What could you do with 5 extra hours in your day? The average child has 8 hours of screen time per day. Average child, is this what we really want for our kids to be able to experience the world that God has created? There are 19 million video game addicts in America. These are clinically diagnosed, there's probably a whole lot more than that. And then the average child has spent 10,000 hours of gaming by age 21. Can you imagine what kind of gifts and abilities a child could have if they invested that in something other than gaming? What if it was a musical instrument? What if it was a hobby that was serving others, right? And so we see that in our culture today, we have deeply embedded entertainment. I'm just throwing it out there because there's a link to health, and I'm going to let you determine what that is, but we need to address what's going on in our own culture as well. We reflect the same aspect. Here in Caesarea Marítima, you also have water. Now, water is an important part of any ancient city, but there they had freshwater systems, that rivers and springs that flowed through the city, so they had running water there in Caesarea Marítima, and the water would actually flow through the city. You could get it whenever you wanted, however you wanted, fresh water, and then it would come and it would actually clean out the harbor. And so it wouldn't get nasty and filthy and everything like that. It was kind of a self-cleaning system that would clean out the harbor and keep everything nice and clean. And so there you can see the Nymphium as well. This is kind of a fountain that they had in Caesarea Marítima where where people would hang out. It would look nice. It was kind of a social gathering place, but it of course also was a drinking fountain where you could get all the water you needed. And of course, we want to be drinking water on a regular basis as well. About 8 cups of water a day, and so we can see some parallels there. Now, if you go, Caesarea Marítima later on in history was taken over by the Crusaders as a religious, seeing it as a religious site, and so there's also some Crusader architecture. So this is a Crusader's gate into the city, and they built a wall around it with a moat and a drawbridge, which is really fascinating. But evidently, since the time of the Crusaders, Caesarea Marítima has been demoted. Okay, all right. You can also find air and sunlight. It was right there on the coast, beautiful setting. And then one of the fascinating archaeological finds here in Caesarea Marítima is that they found a stone that talks about Prefect Pontius Pilate, Pontius Pilatus in Latin. And now, before this happened, this was found a few decades ago, before they found the stone, many critics said, we've never even found any evidence that Pilate ever existed. You Christians are just making stuff up. It's just an idea there in the Bible. And so they didn't even believe that Pilate existed. But then what was even more challenging is that Luke uses the Gospel Luke uses a technical word, prefect. Now, prefect was slightly different than a governor there in that time. It was more of a military leader, etc. And so then they find this Pontius Pilate stone right here in Caesarea Marítima. If you watch the first episode of Thunder in the Holy Land, you see this on it as well. And so they find this stone that uses where they find out that Luke, the gospel writers, uses the very technical language that was used to describe the role of Pontius Pilate. And so just another confirmation that the Word of God that we have in front of us is trustworthy and reliable. We can bet on it, we can follow it, we can experience the power behind it. It is true, it is beautiful. Ancient secrets to thriving health. Now we just got a chance to have a quick little tour of Caesarea Marítima, but health is something that's been looked at throughout the centuries, isn't it? And actually more recently, National Geographic did a study of what they called blue zones. They found 3 groups of people that in the world that tended to live longer than everybody else. There was a group of people in Okinawa, there was a group in Sardinia, and then there was another group of people called Seventh-day Adventists that tended to live significantly longer than everybody else. And they found out what were some of the aspects of that. And so here were some of the principles of that Seventh-day Adventists, or this group that they studied here in this issue of National Geographic. Here were some of the things that they saw as important, that all of us can really see as important today. Nutrition, so plenty of fruits, grains, nuts, and vegetables as close to their natural state as possible. Exercise, getting out and exercising and 5 times a week or as much as you can, maybe vigorous exercise, a little bit less. Water, drinking fresh water, 8 glasses of water a day at least. Sunshine, temperance, saying no to things that are harmful and saying not too much of other things, and then air, doing fresh air, plenty of fresh air, and then rest as well. We talked about and sleep at night as well as rest on the Sabbath, and then trust in God, dealing with stress and these other things that deeply affect our health, how we can place our lives in Jesus' hands and gain peace even in the midst of the storm. And so they found out that this group called Seventh-day Adventists actually tended to live about 10 years longer. Women actually 11 years longer than average. Men 8 years longer than average. And so this is something that they were studying, and they wanted to find out what could we learn from this. It was fascinating to read about. But going back to Caesarea Marítima, there is something that happened in Caesarea Marítima that actually can dramatically change our health today. Not only our health, but the way we treat people. I'd like to invite you to turn with me in your Bibles to Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10. Something very profound happens in Caesarea Marítima. We're going to dive deep into this evening, and we're going to we're going to unveil some secrets in this highly misunderstood Bible passage. This is probably one of the more misunderstood Bible passages in the New Testament. And so, Acts chapter 10. Have you found it? All right, Acts chapter 10 in your Andrew Study Bible, that would be page 1436. And so, actually 1435. And so let's start out at verse 1. Acts 10, verse 1. There was a certain man in where? Caesarea. All right, we're in Caesarea Marítima right here, called Cornelius. He was a centurion of what was called the Italian regiment, a devout man and one who feared God with all his household, who gave generously to people and prayed to God always. So right now we have Cornelius, who's a Gentile, but he's a believer in God. This is not only professed as saying, yeah, I'm a Christian, but this is expressed through his Christ-like character. And so let's continue reading and see what happens here. Verse 3. Going through rapidly, and about the 9th hour of the day, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming to him, saying, Cornelius. And he observed him. He was afraid. He said, what is it, Lord? So he said to him, your prayers and your alms have come up as for a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea. He will tell you what you must do. And when the angel who had spoken to him had departed, Cornelius called 2 of his household servants, a devout soldier among them, those who waited on him continually. So when he had explained all these things to them, he sent them to Joppa. So God tells them, you've been following me. I want to give you the next step. Go find Peter, and he'll help you find him. Okay? Well, so in obedience to the call of God, this Gentile servants are on their way over to Peter's house to learn about, so they can all learn about Jesus. But there is a big problem. Big problem. See, when Peter is invited to come to Cornelius' house, he is inevitably going to say, no, not going. Why? Because the Jews believed that the Gentiles were unclean and would never enter a Gentile's house. Peter was prejudiced. Mercy. Do you have prejudice among the people of God today? Mercy. Although Peter doesn't realize that his prejudice is working directly against the providence of God. And so is it possible that we might be blind to some prejudices today? How can we love everybody just like Jesus loves them as well? We need to let God break through with a revelation from his word just like he does to Peter. Let's find out what happens. So then God is trying to prepare Peter's heart to be able to receive these Gentile servants from the Gentile Cornelius. So then what happens? Verse 9. So the next day, as they went on their journey and drew near the city, Peter went up on the housetop to pray. Great thing to do. About the 6th hour. Then he became very hungry, and he wanted to eat. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven open, and an object like a great sheet bound in the 4 corners, descending and let down to the earth. In it were all kinds of 4-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, creeping things, birds of the air. And a voice came to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, No, Lord, for I have never eaten anything common or unclean. And the voice spoke to him again, and the second time, What God has cleansed, you must not call common. This was done 3 times, and the object was taken up into heaven again. Interesting. So Peter has this vision up on the rooftop. And so he responds, it says, kill and eat, and Peter responds, No, for I have never eaten anything what? Common or unclean? Interesting. Peter, there's all kinds of animals in the sheep. Peter could have just reached out and chosen a lamb, couldn't he? Could have just reached out and chosen a lamb and taken it and killed it and eaten it. But the Jews had a belief that anything that actually had come in contact with something that was ritually, this is about ritual purity here. Anything that's come in contact with something unclean is now in and of itself unclean. We talked about it this morning with the stone water jars, or with the stone jars, right? How they wouldn't be ceramic because if they come in contact with something unclean, like a dead rat or something, then you got to throw the whole thing away. And so, no, we want to have a stone jar that's not going to be affected by that. And so Peter is saying that there's contact with other unclean and other impure animals, rather. And he says, no, I can't have any of it. I'm not going to have any of it. Now, it's important to note, he says, I had never eaten anything, what were those words again? Tell me again. Common or unclean, impure or unclean. And God says, and now what's God's response? What God has cleansed, you must not call what? Common. Common. So what does this common mean? This is talking about ritual impurity. This is going beyond what species of animal it is. This is talking about ritual impurity here. He's using the terminology because there is no other terminology, common, impurity. This is some of the same arguments that Jesus is having with the religious leaders when they're like, hey, your disciples are eating without washing their hands. They weren't talking about sanitization there. They're talking about how they haven't done the special ritual, the ceremonious things that they had, the laws that they put in place for them to do before they can eat these foods in order to maintain their ritual purity, okay? So Peter, being a Jew, he's still very much Jewish, and so he is saying, I'm not going to eat anything that's common. Okay. So he's thinking about that. So what happens? Verse 17, Acts 10:17. Now while Peter wondered within himself what this vision which he had seen meant, okay, so Peter's like, man, that was a crazy vision. What on earth does this mean, right? At the very time, while he's wondering about it, the men who had been sent from Cornelius, the Gentile, had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. And they called and asked whether Simon, whose surname was Peter, was lodging there. While Peter thought about the vision, have you noticed this? It's repeating it. While Peter's wondering about the vision, while Peter's still thinking about the vision, the Spirit, so he gets the request, hey, will you come with us to Caesarea? We want to learn about the gospel. While Peter has thought about the vision, the Spirit said to him, behold, 3 men are seeking you. Arise, therefore go down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Okay, I've sent them. God is breaking through, saying, I've given you this vision. I want you to go. And so Peter's thinking about, what does this vision mean? Some guys show up who he would normally not associate with whatsoever. And God says, I sent these guys. I want you to go. You don't have to worry about becoming unclean by rubbing shoulders with Gentiles who you see as unclean. Are we together on this? So Peter's being challenged right now by the God. He's being challenged to step outside of his comfort zone and do something he wouldn't normally do. Praise the Lord. Are we ready to be challenged to step outside of our comfort zone tonight and do something we wouldn't normally do? Are we ready for that? Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So while Peter, he's thinking about the vision, and then verse 21. Then Peter went down to the men who had been sent him from Cornelius and said, yes, I am he who you seek. For what reasons have you come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man who fears God and has a good reputation among the nation of the Jews, was divinely instructed by a holy angel to summon you to his house and to hear words from you. Then he invited them in and lodged them. Oh, this was a huge no-no. Huge no-no. Because the Jews believed that you should never, ever go into have a Gentile come into your house. They're going to make the whole thing impure. The whole thing unclean. You just can't have contact with them like that. Peter, what are you thinking? And then also you would never go over inside a Gentile's house either. We got to keep this separate. That was the understanding. That was the idea. But now God has broken through. He's changing Peter's prejudices, and Peter is trying new things because God is challenging to do it by his word. And so Peter invites them in, and then what happens? The following day, verse 24, the following day they entered Caesarea. Now Cornelius was waiting for them, and he had called together his relatives and close friends. As Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter lifted him up, saying, "Stand up, I myself am also a man." And as he talked with him, he went in and found many who had come together. Then he said to him, "You know how..." Now Peter's going to give us a little insight here of where he's coming from, right? Listen to this. Peter says to the Gentiles who are before him, "You know how unlawful it is for a Jewish man to keep company with or go to one of another nation," or a Gentile, right? To a Gentile. "But God has shown me that I should not call any food common or unclean." Amen. Wait, what? Amen. "But God has shown me that I should not call any food common or unclean." Amen. "But God has shown me that I should not call any what? Man common or unclean. Therefore I came without objection as soon as I was sent for. I asked them, 'For what reason have you sent me?'" So then Peter shares the gospel with them, continuing on. He shares the gospel. They receive it with joy. They're excited. And then God even breaks through in a special way. He gives them the Holy Spirit. And so Peter sees this. He sees God working through in their lives. And then listen to what Peter says in verse 34. "Then Peter opened his mouth and said, 'In truth, I perceive that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, or every ethnicity, every kind of person who fears him and works righteousness is accepted by him.'" The circumcised believers and so Peter says, "I realize God has shown no partiality here." So Peter gives his own interpretation of the vision. He gives his own interpretation of the experience. He says, "God has shown me that I realize I should not call any man impure or unclean." Then he sees God working to open up the gospel in their hearts, and he says, "Wow, God doesn't show partiality like I thought he did. He loves the Gentiles too. He wants to reach them too." And so then, after Peter gets back from this, we find out even later, so the Holy Spirit descends on the Gentiles. Peter is amazed, and they're saying, "Wow, we never thought this could even happen. And we didn't know Gentiles could have the Holy Spirit, but here they are." And so then you find, even in the beginning of chapter 11, when Peter gets back from sharing the gospel, from seeing God at work, he gets criticized by the believers, saying, "Man, what were you thinking going into a Gentile's house? Oh, foolishness." And Peter says, no. And then he has to explain and tell the whole story, okay? So, why do we go into such detail to really explain this? Now, you tell me, according to the context of this passage, what was the meaning of the vision that God gave Peter? What was the meaning? Was it about diet?
No, man.
Was it God saying, "Peter, you need to diversify your kosher diet and start eating more reptiles and other animals"? No. I can't tell you how many preachers I've heard on the radio, on TV, and on the internet say that this passage is about food. Say that this passage is God saying, "Hey, you can eat whatever you want. Kill and eat. It doesn't matter. God's making all the foods clean." Peter doesn't even take this away from it. Peter says, no. I get it, God. You've given me a metaphor that I can totally understand in my culture, that I should not call any man common, ritually impure, or unclean. You know, doesn't it make sense? Wouldn't a God of love care about our health and want to give us guidance on how we can have a healthier, happier life? Wouldn't he? Wouldn't a God care about us that much? Wouldn't you expect me as a parent to put limits on what my daughter can and can't eat? I mean, wouldn't you expect that? If I see my daughter about to pick up some nails and put them in her mouth, what do you think I should do as a parent? Stop! That's going to hurt you, right? Or if my daughter says, "Hey, today I don't want to eat any food, I only want to eat ice cream for all 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner." As a good parent, what should I do? No. I know you want it, but it's actually only going to hurt you in the end. And so, does God love us any less than we love our own kids? No. Of course not. Then God, out of his own love, is going to give us something better than what we can come up with ourselves. He's going to give us guidance on how we can have healthier lives and healthier diets. So what is his guidance? Well, we find there when God first creates the world in Genesis 1 and 2, he creates Adam and Eve and he surrounds them in a garden. Because taste is part of the joy that God has given us. To be able to taste and see that the Lord is good. To be able to experience the beauty of his creation through taste. And so God tells Adam and Eve, and God says, yeah, every herb that yields seed and every that is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, it shall be for your food. So God surrounds them with a plant-based diet there in the Garden of Eden. So it's a vegetarian diet. I guess more specifically, it's even a vegan diet. It's a plant-based diet there in the Garden of Eden that God gives them as a blessing for them. It's interesting today, there's a lot more exposure and understanding about the benefits of a plant-based diet, even than there was 20 years ago. You're finding all kinds of documentaries coming out, like Forks Over Knives and What the Health, and other things. But one of the areas that people don't talk about is the impact on the environment. Actually, a plant-based diet is not only good for your health, but it's good for the environment. Have you noticed how there's a lot more push to have electric cars and things like that to kind of take care of greenhouse gases and take care of the environment? Well, listen to this. Animals must be fed a minimum of 9 calories in feed and grains for each calorie that the animal turns into meat. Because of that inefficiency, about 18% of climate change is attributable to animal agriculture. 18%. What is that? According to the United Nations scientists, which is about 40% more than all that's caused by planes, trains, trucks, and cars combined. The most efficient meat creates 52 grams of greenhouse gases per calorie, which is 25 times more than legumes and 10 times more than wheat, 7 times more than soy. So basically what that's saying is if you care about the environment, even more important than driving an electric car is become a plant-based diet, right? Become a vegetarian. Stop eating the meats, and that can make an even bigger difference. And so God instructed Noah to bring both clean and unclean animals in the ark. Now, a lot of people say, wait, was that just for Jews? Was he just coming up with some kind of idea there? No. Before there was ever a Jew, God is saying there's a difference between the animals that I created. Listen to this. Then the Lord said to Noah, come into the ark, you and all your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. You shall take with you how many? 7 of every clean animal, male and female. And 2 of each of the animals that are unclean, male and female. Now, I remember growing up, how many of you have ever heard a song or read a children's story about the animals going in the ark 7 by 7? It's almost like this is like a forgotten verse of the Bible, and yet it's so blatant, it's right there. God is giving a distinction to Noah. Hey, for clean animals 7, for unclean animals 2. Now why? What's the reason for that? It's twofold. The reason is, number 1, clean animals, we're going to use some of those for sacrifices, aren't we? Remember, the first thing that happens after the flood is Noah builds an altar and he offers a sacrifice, thanking God for saving them through the flood. And so, of course, you need some extras for that, but also, after the flood is when God gives permission to human beings to eat meat. There wouldn't have been as much greenery and plants, and it would take time for those to be cultivated and everything like that, so God gives permission for them to eat meat, but he doesn't say eat every kind of meat. He says there's certain kinds that maybe you shouldn't eat, and then he even says, but even that, I want you to not eat the fat or the blood. Not eat the fat of the blood. And so, what's the difference between unclean and clean? Well, Deuteronomy 14 tells us, as well as Leviticus 11. They say, and you may eat every animal with cloven hooves, have your hooves split in 2 parts, and that chews the cud among the animals. So let's give some examples. Nevertheless, of those that chew the cud or have cloven hooves, you shall not eat, such as these. The camel, okay, sorry guys, no more camel, all right? The camel, the hare, the rock hyrax, they chew the cud, but they do not have cloven hooves. They're unclean for you. So if it doesn't have both, then the Bible says that it's not clean to eat. And then it continues on. Also the swine is unclean for you because it has cloven hooves, but it does not chew the cud. You shall not eat their flesh or touch their dead carcasses. And now somebody's saying, but it's so good. Come on, what's the deal? Why does there even have to be a difference? Once again, who loves us more? Us or God? And so God is saying, I've permitted eating some animals ever since the flood, but there are certain animals that I didn't create to be edible. Does that make sense? Certain animals that were never created to be edible, and we find these are the kind of animals that, number one, there's not the same kind of digestive process. The meat in general, scientists see, is more dangerous. It carries more diseases and all those kinds of things. But also, these are often the garbage collectors of society. I mean, pigs will eat anything. I'm not going to go into detail of everything that pigs will eat. And so when we're eating them, God is saying, I didn't create them to be edible. I created them for a different purpose, even in this brokenness of sin. And so God is giving this distinction to his people so that they can live healthy, happy lives. That's what he wants for us. He wants us to have the very best. And he says, don't sell yourself short. I've got something great for you. I've got dreams for your life. That's why Psalm 84:11 says, no good thing will he withhold from those who walk uprightly. No good thing. There's nothing that God is trying to keep you from that's good for you. God wants only the very best for you. But he says certain things are dangerous, certain things are not healthy, certain things they could potentially hurt you, and I want you to have a more healthy, happy life. Because really, Jesus says, at the end of the day, you are so special to me. I love you so much that I would rather give up my own life than to see yours deteriorate. I would rather lay down my own life than to see you in pain, to see you sick, than to see you in disease, than to see you not enjoying life and having an abundant life in Christ. And so Jesus is saying, I care about you, I love you, I want to give you something better. And he says, this has to do with your response to me as well. Do you trust my love? Do you want it? Do you want to accept it? Do you want to experience it? Do you want to experience it in every aspect of your life? Not just spiritual things, but physical things too. Therefore, whatever you eat or drink, or whatever you do all to the what? Glory of God. So evidently, Jesus is saying, I don't want to just be the Lord of your heart. I want to also be the Lord of your refrigerator. I want to be the Lord of your dinner table. I want to be the Lord of your plate. I want to be the Lord of your stomach. I want to be the Lord of your mouth, right? Are we willing to let Jesus be Lord of all? Or just Lord of some? Because some isn't any at all. And so it's saying, do whatever you eat or drink, do it to the glory of God. Whatever you eat or whatever you drink. So evidently God has things to say about what we drink as well. Well, we find it right there in the middle of the Bible in Proverbs. A wise saying, wine is a mocker, strong drink or beer is a brawler. This is translated beer in other versions. And whoever is led astray by them is not wise. Wine is a mocker, beer is a brawler. Whoever led astray is not wise. And it continues on, Proverbs 23:29. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has complaints? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of the eyes? Who has those who linger long at the wine? Those who go down in search of mixed wine. Do not look on the wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it swirls around smoothly. At last it bites like a serpent. It stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things. It was interesting, there was a groundbreaking study that came out just a few months ago. I don't know if you heard about it, but it was published in The Lancet, which is a very prestigious British journal that deals with health and these kind of things. And their finding was that there is no safe level of alcohol consumption. Because over the years, we've heard all kinds of mixed messages about alcohol consumption, from various studies here and there and everywhere. And so what these researchers did is they did the most comprehensive study that's been done yet to date. And so they took all these studies over here, and all these over here, and all these over here, to compile this massive study, and they actually reanalyze the data wherever possible. So instead of just taking the conclusions from this, say study that was funded by an alcohol company, they would go back to the data and really look at it. And so they're checking all of these statistics. They collected from 694 data sources over a 26-year period of time from 195 locations around the world. Okay, this is the largest study of recent times in alcohol, and so it's really global, and that's one of the things that's one of the strengths about it. Here's some of the major findings. Okay, you can find this in the Lancet, they're online, but here's some of the major findings from this study that came out just here in August. Number one, alcohol is a major factor in global mortality and disease burden, and the highest risk factor for those who are aged 19 to 45. It's the number one killer, number one disease causer for those ages 19 to 45, okay? Number two, all-cause mortality was associated with any level of alcohol use. So it's not the messages that we've heard before, like, oh, it's okay a little bit, but not too much. They said, no. Any alcohol use is already stepping into mortality risks and disease risks. Risk of many types of cancers increased with any level of alcohol use. It wasn't the certain amount, it was any level whatsoever. They said that the only safe amount of alcohol intake to really avoid disease and death that are very closely linked with alcohol use, the only safe amount is 0. That's what they said, these researchers. And so it's almost like God said it in advance. The authors confirmed that there was no safe level of alcohol use, and then even half a glass of alcoholic beverage a day has a measurable impact on increased mortality. Even half a glass, just a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, is it? And so the researchers even said, a quotation, they said this, the results suggest that alcohol control policies might need to be revised worldwide. That doesn't sound very popular, does it? Refocusing on efforts to lower overall population level consumption. Here is a group of courageous researchers willing to go to the raw data to reanalyze it objectively, to take as this comprehensive sample that's never been done before, and they find out that, oh, it's not what we've heard for years and years about yes, no, maybe so. It's actually just 0. That's the only safe amount. And so they're saying we should even find ways that we can help break this down in the whole population and make the world a better place. And so so what does alcohol do? Well, this isn't the only study that's been published on this. There's tons of them that have been published. It's the leading killer for young people today. Of the 13 to 15 million alcoholics, this is in our own country, more than 3 million are under age 18. It's the most malignant social disease ever known to mankind. And so it kills over 100,000 Americans each year. It costs $120 billion in economic damages due to alcohol, implicated in 2/3 of homicides, half of rapes, and 70% of robberies. Jesus said, by their fruits you will know them. Well, we can continue on with the statistics. I won't belabor you, but we find that all these sad damages to society, in the home, in the family, domestic abuse, rape, murder, all these things, robbery, crime, all these things, so much of it links back to the same source of alcohol being a factor in that. God himself was trying to protect us and says, wine is a mocker, beer is a brawler. Now, this topic of alcohol in the Bible is one of the most misunderstood Bible topics today. You can find countless websites that say the Bible doesn't say anything about drinking alcohol. It only says anything about not drinking alcohol or abstaining from alcohol. It only says moderation. I can't tell you how many websites I found that say that, but yet, personally, I don't want to be mocked in moderation. I don't want to be brawled in moderation, do you? I don't want to be bit in moderation, and I don't want to be stung in moderation, do you? The Bible is clear. It's very clear of what is going on. God is trying to protect us from something that can hurt us. And even if I wasn't a Christian, even if I didn't believe in the Bible, I could look at society and say, oh, it's called the #1 killer in America today. It's called the most destructive drug in America today. Maybe I just won't touch it, right? And so God is trying to protect us from this, but one of the things that makes it tricky in the Bible, and why so many Christians are wanting to say, oh, just moderation, moderation. It doesn't say anything against it. No, one of the things that makes us tricky is that the words in the Bible for wine, in Hebrew it's yayin, in Greek it's oinos, the words for wine are the same word to refer to either fermented or unfermented. Are we together on this? And so what we see is we have to look at the context to find out which one it's referring to. I remember I was doing a Bible study with an 11-year-old girl whose parents actually drank alcohol, and they had kind of tried to prep her for this Bible study in advance by saying, no, it's not bad. You know, there's certain people in the Bible that drank alcohol. And by the way, yes, there were. Does that mean it's a good idea? Okay. So there's certain people in the Bible that drink alcohol, and so it's not that big of a deal. And so she was asking me questions about it. And I remember her saying, so as we were talking about, well, the same word refers to either fermented or unfermented. And then I said, so why do you think that some of the references to alcohol are to wine are very positive, and some of them are very negative? Is God sending us mixed signals? Is God disagreeing with himself? And this 11-year-old girl was really smart. And she said, you know what? Maybe the positive references are talking about grape juice, and the negative references are talking about alcohol. I thought that made sense. You know, here's an example. Here's an example, Isaiah 65, okay? Wine, using the word, is new wine, is grape juice. Thus says the Lord, as the new wine is found in the cluster, do not destroy it, for there's a blessing in it. So this is the same word wine, but it's talking about this is grape juice, right? There's a blessing in the new wine and the fresh grape juice from the fruit of the vine. And so there in Nazareth, actually, they found an original first century wine press. Fascinating. You can go visit it. Here it is right here. And so here's the process. If you wanted to make some wine, fermented or unfermented, if you want to make some wine, first you go up to the vineyard and you grab some grapes, right? You grab some grapes and you go put it in the wine press, and then you would take off your shoes. You'd put the grapes right up here on this platform right here, and then you would take off your shoes, and then you'd have all the grapes right there on the platform, and then you would go ahead and squish the grapes with your bare feet. You'd squish them, and so the juice and so you're squishing them down. That's why the Bible has lots of imagery about trampling in the wine press and these kinds of things. And then the juice would run down through this vat right here. It would run down and be collected in this area right here. So you have the pins and everything up here, and then you got the juice down here. So that's how they would make grape juice, and it was well understood. Now, in our culture today, in the 21st century, there's a wide belief that. Now, I don't drink alcohol, so you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've heard people say that the better wine is the older wine, right? That's the best stuff. But in the Bible times, they actually said that the better wine is the newer wine, is the fresher stuff. This is not only in Isaiah 65, this is also in history. People like Eusebius says, no, this is the best stuff, this is the fresh stuff. And so then we find ourselves in John chapter 2, because so many people say, wait, didn't Jesus turn water into wine? Right? Isn't this Jesus' deal? I mean, isn't he like a hardcore partier? Or something? Well, what happens in John chapter 2? So Jesus goes to a wedding feast. There's a special wedding. Isn't it wonderful how Jesus cares about marriages? Jesus cares about weddings, and in fact, God says that he will stand up and fight for marriages and to not throw in the towel. Don't give up. If you're having a difficult time, if you're having a rough time in a rough patch in your life, a rough patch in your marriage, don't give up. God fights for marriage. He says, I hate divorce, but I love marriage, and I will work to bring you back together. What God has joined together, let no man separate. God cares about your marriage. Amen. And so Jesus is coming to this wedding, to this marriage feast in Cana, this small city not too far away from Caesarea Marítima. They're in Galilee, and it's estimated that the population of Cana at that time was about, ready? 400 people. Small town, okay? About 400 people. And so Jesus goes in, and he's going to the wedding feast, and they're having a wonderful time. This is a shame and honor society, so it's a big deal to host a feast for the community and everything like that. And then a horrible thing happens. They run out of the wine. They run out and they say, oh no, what are we going to do? This is an embarrassing thing for the host for sure. And so what are we going to do? John 2, 6 and 7. So Jesus says, so then Mary goes to Jesus and she says, hey, can you help him with this? He says, my time's not yet come. But then he has compassion in his heart. He shows just how much he cares about marriages and how much he loves relationships and wants to build them up. And so Jesus steps in. This is his first miracle that he's ever done. And it says, nearby stood 6 stone water jars filled to the brim. Okay, so they've got some stone water jars there. Now remember, we've actually found in archaeology, we found some stone water jars there in Canaan. Remember, stone was important because of ritual purity, right? And so these were the nice stuff. They were carved out of one stone. And so what they found in Canaan is these stone water jars could hold 20 to 30 gallons of liquid in them. Okay, these are large stone water jars that they found there in Canaan, dating back to this very time. So Jesus tells them to fill the stone water jars. There's 6 of them, to fill them with water. And then Jesus says, send them up to the front, and they pour it out, and it's wine. And everybody says, wow, this is the best wine. You saved the best for last. This is incredible. So what does this mean? Was this fermented wine or unfermented wine? Well, let's think about it. 20 to 30 gallons, 6 stone water jars, that's 120 to 180 gallons of wine. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Jesus coming into Port Orchard and saying, you know what, I want to come and I want to show people the character of God. I want to show people how much we love Him. I want to show people the best possible life that they could have. The first thing I want to do is I want to build a saloon. Because this is going to help our homes. This is going to help our families. This is going to help our society. This is going to help us love one another and love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, and mind. No, He's not going to do that. And so if Jesus really did fermented wine, which like we already said, they already considered the best wine, the freshest stuff, if Jesus really did fermented wine, He would have been intentionally getting the whole place totally plastered drunk, right? I mean, this is like, I did the math, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say that's like 7.5 8-ounce glasses per person of alcohol. And it's only 3, I was doing some Google here, it's only 3 to get drunk. And so this would have just like totally wasted the entire place. And so perhaps there's something more. Perhaps this same word for wine actually is referring to the new wine that the Bible talks about, that there's a blessing in, and that Jesus is providing them with grape juice, that He's giving them something beautiful. It's interesting because people say, well, then what was the difference? Well, the difference was, number one, new wine was the freshest from the vine. And we've actually found in archaeology, somebody named Pliny, who had preserved a list of 40 different ways to preserve grape juice from getting fermented. Well, why would we want to preserve grape juice from getting fermented if that's the point? And so they actually had ways that they would preserve it from getting fermented. They found, for example, some grape paste, and then they'd add water so that you could have grape juice year-round, even when grapes weren't in season. But it wouldn't necessarily be fermented. And so this is where Jesus is providing the new wine, the fresh stuff, straight from the hand of God Himself, squeezing the cluster of grapes, providing joy to the wedding feast. So why does it really matter? For me, why it really matters is that Jesus has something better for us. Jesus has healing and wholeness available. It doesn't matter if we're struggling with alcohol, if we're struggling with unclean meats, or if we're struggling with an addiction, with smoking, with marijuana, with whatever it is. When we're struggling, Jesus reaches out to us and says, I have something better for you. I have something better. I love you. I want to take care of it from you. I want to deliver you from that. And I want to give you wholeness and health and a way forward in me. I can take this from you. I can take care of you. Do you trust me enough to let it go? Do you love me enough to let it go? This is what Jesus is saying to each one of us, because really when we think about alcohol or any other substance for that matter, tobacco or nicotine or marijuana, all the above, the Bible tells us that those things mess with our brain and they affect our ability to connect with the Holy Spirit, to connect with God. Listen to this in Leviticus chapter 10, where it says, "Then the Lord spoke to Aaron, saying, 'Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, not at all, you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tabernacle of meeting, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that you may distinguish between the holy and unholy, between the clean and unclean.'" And so God is saying that these substances affect our judgment, our ability to discern the holy and the unholy. These are the most important decisions that we make in our lives. These are not just a side thing. This isn't just a religion that we stick in a drawer and pull out one day a week when it's convenient for us. This is something that Jesus says, I want this to be part of your daily experience with me. I want your mind to be as fresh and as sharp and as clear as possible so I can impress you and lead you and guide you and communicate with you and fill you with joy, peace, and happiness. And so this was given to the priests in the Old Testament, and then Peter comes along in the New Testament and says, oh, wait a second, so who are the priests today? But you, the people of God, are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. And so God is saying, you're my priests, you're my spiritual leaders. I want to use you to be a blessing. I want to use you to be a witness. I want to work in your life and through your life. Will you give me a chance by setting these things aside and glorifying me with your bodies? We saw this morning, Revelation 14:7 says this message that would go out to all the world, fear the God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. We saw the hour of his judgment has come. If there was ever a time to be serious of really giving our lives to Christ, it's now, isn't it? If there was ever a time to be serious, to participate spiritually with Jesus, to leave everything in his hands, it's now, and to give him glory. And whatever we eat, whatever we drink, to give glory to God, to worship him who made the heavens and the earth, the spring, the sea, and the springs of water. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have from God? And you are not your own, for you were bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Whatever you eat, whatsoever you drink, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. See, the awesome part about what God gives us with health is that it's not just about us. He says, I'm going to have such a close relationship with you that your body is a temple of mine, of me. It's not just about you. It's not just about all this. So actually the decisions you make affect me as well. And I want to be with you. I want to be close to you. I want to give you something better. You know, someone here is saying, well, this is all great, but I've been struggling. I've been smoking for years and never been able to quit. I don't know what I've tried everything. I haven't been able to. Sometimes we feel like we're chained to our habits. We have to rely on these chemical dependencies. But Jesus actually says he has something better for us. Jesus doesn't say, for I can do some things through Christ who strengthens me. Jesus doesn't say, for I can do most things through Christ who strengthens me. Jesus doesn't say, for I can do everything except for quit addiction through Christ who strengthens me. Jesus says, I can do what? All things through Christ who strengthens me. And many of us have gotten discouraged because we've tried to quit, we've tried to quit, we've tried to quit, we've tried to set aside, but then it keeps coming back. The cravings are strong, the withdrawals are difficult to deal with, and so it keeps coming back into our life. The stresses, something comes up in our life, we get stressed, and we got to reach out for that cigarette, we got to reach out for that alcohol. Whatever's going on in our lives, we feel like it's chained, it's how we can get that release, and Jesus says, let me be your peace, let me be your release, let me be here with you. And so we get discouraged, and we look back at our past failures, and we say, I'll never be able to do it. I'll never be able to do it. But Jesus is standing right there next to you saying, I love you. I forgive you. For those mistakes that you've had, for those difficulties that you have, for those struggles you have, I forgive those. I love you, and I've got something better for you. As soon as we are ready to really put all in Jesus' hands, he takes it from there. Last year, Mary Lee came to a seminar similar to this one. And as she was learning about the Bible truths, as she was learning about the Bible truths about Jesus, about health, about all these various things, she had actually shut Jesus out of her life since age 10. She was 80 at the time. So she shut Jesus out of her life for 70 years, running away from Jesus until she gets a little brochure in the mail talking about a seminar at the Port Orchard Baptist Church. She comes to the seminar and she meets Jesus Christ in a powerful and profound way. And she says, I want to give my heart to Christ. And she comes in and she meets with me in my office and she says, Pastor Dustin, I want to get baptized. I want to, but there's something that I want to resolve before this baptism. I've been addicted to smoking for 67 years. And I tried every plan, product, and method to quit. I've tried, all that, you name it, I've tried it. I've never been able to quit it for 67 years. But I want to. And I want to give this, and we said, now you're going to try Jesus. And so right there, we prayed with her. The presenter and myself prayed with her. We thanked God for the victory. We claimed Bible promises. We thanked God for providing the power and for Mary's choice to move on from smoking. And Mary walked out of my office that day a former smoker. She never had another cigarette the rest of her life. She walked out, and so as soon as she got home, she took all of her cigarette paraphernalia, all of her cigarettes and her ashtrays and everything like that, and she threw them away to a place she couldn't go back and get them. She removed access, because when we want to truly surrender to the Lord, we need to have a battle plan, as well as how to fight that craving that's going to show up at some point. And so she removed access completely, and then she knew it would come. Then the stress came. One day the grandchild was crying and everything like that, and it was a stressful time. And when she would normally walk out the door and pull out a cigarette and have a smoke to just relax, instead she fell to her knees in her bedroom and said, God, this isn't part of my life anymore. Thank you. Thank you for helping me through this. And next time it happened, she did the same thing. The prayer out on her front porch that used to be her smoking chair, where she would go and smoke every day, ultimately became her prayer chair, where she would instead go out and talk to the Lord right there on the front porch in the fresh air. Jesus changed her life. We all celebrated as she gave her heart to Christ and was baptized. Little did we know that 2 months after baptism, she would be diagnosed with cancer. And little did we know that 4 months later, she would pass away. God had been chasing her for 70 years, and he caught her just in time, because our God is powerful. Our God is loving, and there is nothing in our lives that can separate us from the love of God. There is no addiction, no struggle, no secret viewing, no secret addiction to porn on the internet, no addiction to alcohol or to nicotine, whatever it is. There is nothing that can separate us from the life-changing love of God. And he can come in and say, I've got something better for you. Will you try it? Will you let me do this for you? Only you can make the choice. Only you can decide to remove complete access, but only I can supply the power to give victory. And that's how it works. If any of you are struggling with an addiction, if you're ready to quit smoking or drugs or alcohol, whatever it is, let me know. And we'll have a special prayer for you. Bring all your paraphernalia. Bring all your cigarettes, your lighters, your ashtrays, your everything like that. Bring them, and you're going to turn them in, because you're not going to need them anymore after that. Bring all your paraphernalia, get rid of it, remove access completely. We're going to pray and claim God's promises, and we will help you come up with a plan to bless other people whenever you feel tempted, to use the same senses that are engaged in whatever is dragging you down to be a blessing to other people instead. And God will provide the victory. I've seen it happen before, and I believe it can happen again, because God says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I love you. I've got something wonderful and beautiful and powerful for you. Will you give me access to your life? Will you invite me to be the Lord Lord of your heart? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your refrigerator? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your stomach? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your dinner table? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your beverages? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your body? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your eyes? Will you invite me to be the Lord of your everything? So that I can dwell in you and be a temple, so you can be a temple of the Holy Spirit. In Caesarea Marítima, in closing, there is a room that in Herod's palace that was built there, that is the likely room where Paul the Apostle was tried. Paul was in prison in Caesarea Marítima for 2 years, and on his way, but when he appeals to Caesar and ends up going to Rome. And so he's arrested in Jerusalem, he's taken to Caesarea Marítima, and there he's held in house arrest for a couple of years. And then Paul is brought before Governor Festus and then King Agrippa. And Paul walks in, this is in Acts chapter 26, Paul walks in, and he starts talking to King Agrippa. And Agrippa is familiar with the Jews. He's familiar with he has knowledge about what has happened with Jesus Christ. He's heard of Jesus of Nazareth, and so he's kind of familiar with some of these things and has questions about it, and he wonders. And so Paul presents to him the good news of Jesus Christ. He tells them the power of God to change lives. Paul says, Jesus invites you too. You too. To be one of his followers. And at the end of Paul's powerful speech there in Acts 26, King Agrippa says this: you almost persuade me to become a Christian. See, Paul responds, I would to God that not only you, but all who hear me today might become both almost and together such as I am, except for these chains. See, there was something better available for Agrippa. There was the power of God in his life. There was salvation available for Agrippa, but all he could think about was what he had to lose. The things that he liked, that he would be giving up, potentially. His honor, his respect, his job, etc. Instead of thinking about all he had to gain, Jesus in his heart, Jesus in his life, salvation, hope, and wholeness that nobody or no circumstance can take away. And King Agrippa finally concludes, I have more to lose than I have to gain in Christ. Almost you persuade me to become a Christian. We've talked about God's blessings for health. And the ushers are going to be passing out a card right now. A card and a writing utensil. We've talked about God's blessings, his dreams for our health tonight. The Bible teaching is clear. God has something better for us. Jesus wants to have such an intimate relationship with us that it's reflected in the very way we live our lives. It's reflected in the very substances that we take into our bodies. It's reflected on how we even treat our bodies. Jesus wants to be that close to us. And so sometimes it's easy to think of only what we have to lose. But I love this kind of food. But I love how alcohol makes me feel. Or, well, why is this such a big deal? Or, but I love, but this is how I deal with my stress. Or whatever it is. It's easy to think of what we have to lose. But let's not do what King Agrippa did. Let's think about, what do we have to gain? Jesus says, I want to be so close to you. I want to give you something better. I want to give you hope. I want to give you health. I want to give you wholeness. I want to give you intimacy with me. I want to give you power. I want to give you everything that you desire. And so Jesus is inviting us today. What will you say? Almost you persuade me. Or Jesus, I'm all in. I want to give you a chance. Just take a couple of minutes to make this decision between you and God right now. We passed out some simple response cards. And this is a way for you to make a choice right now. Because really, the ball's in your court. You see the truth. You see what the Bible teaches. What are you going to do about it? This is a chance to respond. So I really encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity. Here's how it works. There's a simple box for a prayer that you can pray to Jesus. I'm all in. If this is your desire, Check all of them that apply. I understand the Bible teaching on healthful living. Number 2, I want to be free from smoking, alcohol, drugs, and unclean foods. Number 3, I would like special prayer to overcome addiction. If that's one of your desires, one of your needs, and we can do that. Number 4, I have decided to keep God's seventh-day Sabbath holy. We saw that this is an integral part of our health and wholeness as well. And then write down your name, your phone, and your address. I want to give you a chance to prayerfully reflect on that right now. What are you going to say with God's invitation? He's got something better for us. Are you going to say, almost you persuade me, or Jesus, I'm all in? I want to give you a couple minutes to prayerfully reflect and to fill that out right now, just for a minute or two. To the ushers right now. Just pass them out to the aisle and pass them right now. And I want to be praying for you that Jesus will continue guiding you in your journey with Him, that He will continue showing up in your life in a beautiful and powerful way, that He will continue revealing more of His will, more of His love, more of His hope, more of His wholeness to you in your life. You know, Jesus said, without me, you can do nothing. But then He also said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Let's lean into the dreams that God has for us. Let's say, Jesus, you can have total access. You can be Lord of all. I want you. I'm all in. How many want to say, Jesus, I'm all in. I'm all yours. I'm all in tonight. Praise God. Praise God. Let's go ahead and close with prayer. Please make sure to turn in those cards because I personally want to be praying for you. So please go ahead and make sure to turn those in, and let's go ahead and bow our heads for one more word of prayer. If you, actually, before we do that, if you haven't had a chance to turn your card, if you need an usher to come by, you can just raise it up right now. Okay, let's pray. Jesus, thank you so much. You've got such beautiful and powerful dreams for our lives. We want to embrace them. We want to live them out. And where we are weak, you are strong. And we know you wouldn't ask anything of us that isn't for our best interests. And so, Lord, we invite you to change our lives. We choose you, and we invite your power in. God, we know that only we can make the choice moving forward from here if we love you enough to abstain from these things you tell us to avoid. But only you can supply the power to help us follow through. So God, we're going to do our part. We're going to choose you, and we're going to trust in you to do your part. And so that whenever we're tempted, whenever we're stressed, whenever we're having a rough time, that we will fall to our knees instead of turn to these other things. And so that, Lord, our prayer tonight is that we might just turn our eyes upon Jesus, that we would look full into your wonderful face, that these things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of your glory and grace. Amen. Thank you so much for coming this evening. I'll look forward to seeing you Monday night as we look at nasty water that cures disease. You won't want to miss it. See you Monday night at 6:30. Thank you so much for coming.
Are you at your house still part-time? So is your bedroom upstairs or downstairs? Is your bedroom? Is that available?